Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Disney Does. DisneyDwayne here, and in this episode, we are going to be reviewing the book Mirror, Mirror as part of the Disney Twisted Tale series, which already has 9 books. That's crazy, and I have to do a little bit of catching up. The last time we reviewed a book, it was book number 5, I believe, and this is book number 6. I've got 3 more to catch up on, so let's get right into specifics. Now, I had issues with this particular Twisted Tale, and I'm going to list some of them right here. It said specifically in the book that Ingrid, the evil queen, changed herself into a witch without first ensuring she had ingredients to change back. Now, if her whole idea was to stay youthful and young, why would she do that to herself, right? Why change into an old hag without having the ingredients to change back? I mean, her point was to defeat Snow White by changing to an evil queen to poison her. So that didn't make sense to me. Also, why would she do this if her goal was to kill Snow White straight away? I mean, she didn't actually uh, go look for Snow White to poison her. The next thing she did was she created a storm to try to kill Snow White. So why would she need to be a witch to do that? Like, why would she need to be an old hag to do that, right? So there are these inconsistencies that really kind of bug me because they're important. Um, I couldn't actually express that. I wanted to actually find a sort of like a Reddit group, but there is no Reddit group for the Twisted Tales. So I guess my sort of expression and output would be here on the DisneyDwayne channel. Also, though I loved how there was so much backstory to her and her sister's lives, that was well done, and about Snow White growing up and how her father was banished. It didn't really make sense why Ingrid was after so much harvest and diamonds. Yeah, sure, it's greed, but what more than that? We don't want to make her a two-dimensional character. What was she doing with so much? What did she need all that for? It didn't actually explain where her intentions were coming from. Also, the twist in the tale, it says, what happens if the prince was poisoned? Usually, when you have a premise like that, you want to have it sort of like, well, by the time the prince, instead of Snow White, had been poisoned, things like Snow White meeting her father and having, and all that kind of stuff had already happened. So these are things that we didn't know about in the original movie. So the premise of the twist in the tale should be directly related to an original plot point, which it wasn't. Then you could just poison the prince anytime, and it's like, that's not the twist, right? So following the events of the original movie, leading up to the moment the evil queen should have poisoned Snow White, she meets the prince instead, is what should have happened. The ending was a bit quick also, and suddenly a happy ending. I felt it all too rushed, and perhaps too much of the future had been spelled out as well. It made me curious about how the story would play out in more detail. What happens in the future, actually, like how the wrongs of the kingdom were righted, how trade was reopened, how the farmers and miners profited off their work eventually, and how safety measures were put in place, what opening up the castle was like, what their garden parties were like, what being married to the prince was like. This is perhaps an opportunity for another story, but it's something that just probably wouldn't fit into the series. But, the ending that was so rushed sounded more interesting than the actual story itself. So I felt like this book kind of, didn't take off so well in terms of the twist and in terms of the logic of how characters behave as well. So I hope to see a better story from this author, Jen, in the next one that I'm reading. It's Conceal, Don't Feel, and about Elsa. Already, just a really quick note that this premise of what happens if Anna and Elsa actually never met, so that you can start way back and that you can reshape outside of the original, right? So she actually does that a little bit, and it's off to a promising start. So we'll review that in the next episode. Meanwhile, keep reading, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. This is DisneyDwayne. See you in the next episode. Leave your comments below if you'd like to share them, and I'll see you. Bye.